Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Neville GAZSP podcast. I am your host, Bryguy7571. With me, as always, is my co-host, Anders. Anders, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. Great to be with you, and I'm excited to talk to everyone tonight.
Me too. We've already kind of started chatting a little bit and realized we needed to start recording so that we could get all this good stuff down. Just so you guys know, a reminder, after this podcast, this is number 4, we're going to be doing and starting our Take 5 segment. So every time we get to a multiple of 5, 10, 15, those episodes will be shorter, but we'll also be answering some questions. So please, I know on the sub, I'm like, don't ask me how to do it. Don't ask me how to believe all that stuff. I get it. But we'll be a little more lenient with the questions. So even the noobs, feel free to send in some stuff, and we'll show you how you keep asking that question, but then also answer it for you too, and why it's kind of hurting your manifestations. So I think it'll be good for everybody. Also, some other things we have in the works, we're thinking about doing a live. So in the comments, let us know if you're interested in doing a live with us, where we can answer some questions for you, help you guys out as well. And anything else you guys would like to see from this channel. All, suggestions are welcome. So, all right, now that we did a little housekeeping, let's begin. Tonight, we're going to talk about mental diets and their importance in your ability to manifest. Okay, so a mental diet is probably one of the most misunderstood things as far as what I see on the subreddits, right? Everybody thinks a mental diet is, I'm saying my affirmations, I'm doing my SATs. SATs and a mental diet are 2 different techniques. They're not the same. Affirmations and a mental diet are 2 different techniques. Affirmations are things you're saying to make yourself eventually believe, and also to put your awareness on rather than your awareness on the old story. So that's one way of getting rid of the bad story, as well as convincing yourself of the new story. SATs are a technique where you get lost in your head, in your imagination, to where it feels like you've really lived that moment and had it with them. Both great techniques. Okay, but a lot of people get that confused also with living in the end. Living in the end, I try to tell you guys, is a very advanced technique. It is basically what Neville did later on in his books, where he talks about one and done. I went into the silence for 3 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, knew it was done, and he never worried about it again. And as a result of the lack of worry and the absolute belief it was done, things would manifest immediately. It takes a lot of belief to get to that place. I know it took me a while to get to that place, but it's possible with practice. And so that's why a mental diet is so important, because your mental diet is not only watching everything that you allowed to come into you, but it's also practicing thinking about things the way you want them to be and getting rid of your worries instead of focusing on all the problems and why it can't be solved. That's really all it is. It's erasing the bad stories. And a lot of you guys don't realize you have a lot of stories, but you don't even know what your stories are. I'll talk to some of you guys and I'll give you some advice. You're like, yeah, but you don't understand. She's stubborn. He won't do this. Oh, he'll never forgive me. That's a story. Oh, you don't understand. I can't just quit my job and go open a business by myself because I'll never make any money, and and this market is so hard. It's just a story. We had a success story recently, one of my clients on the subreddit who was telling stories like that about her job, right? She was saying it's really hard as a new graduate to get this kind of job, let alone this kind of job in this particular setting, let alone to get it full time. Well, she stopped saying all of those things and started to say just what she wanted, what she desired, and said it as if she already had it, started to give thanks and practiced only saying that. And whenever she would discuss it in her head and the other voice tried to come in, instead of listening to it and arguing with it and being double-minded, and when you are, surprise, surprise, the voice that you believe the most wins, and that's usually the bad one. So you get that. She ignored it completely And within days was getting calls for not only the job she wanted, but in the place she wanted and in the area she even wanted. She got one job offer and declined it because it wasn't where she wanted to live. And she's like, oh, I can do it again. I'll just get it where I want to live. And she did, literally days later. So it's really important, guys, that you watch all your stories. And that's what a mental diet is. What are you thinking? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you watching on TV? If you're watching reality shows all day with people arguing and talking about how they're afraid to be in love and what if I get cheated on and blah, 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 well, no wonder you're worried about that shit too. You can't do that. You have to feed yourself good, healthy things, right? If you're on a regular diet to lose weight, do you eat salads and go vegan and exercise and then at the end of the day sit down and just pig out on cheesecake and chocolate cake and cupcakes and chocolate covered pretzels? No. And if you're eating food and you're not eating healthy food, are you going to stay skinny? Are you going to stay fit? No. If you're eating gallons of sugar, drinking gallons of sugar and eating sugar by the pound, you're going to turn out to be type 2 diabetic. You guys have to watch what you put inside you in any way, be it emotionally, mentally, like reading, watching TV, all that stuff. You got to stop with the bullshit. Life is too short anyway to waste watching the Kardashians or whomever else, listening to some crazy politician. Who cares? None of this shit affects you. And as you know, I used to argue with people all the time on Facebook about politics, especially, right? I was very anti-reality TV as a TV writer. I hate that stuff. But like, what's the point of arguing about it?
And I think too, the big part is, are you buying into this stuff? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there's some people, whatever, they laugh, they watch like trashy TV, like then they don't think about it anymore. They're just like, oh yeah, that was a funny show, like that made me laugh, But then there's other people and they watch and they're like, oh wow, this is what reality is like. This is like what people are like, or this is how
and it's
things
really
are.
Not. Yeah, it's all scripted anyway too. That's the thing.
Yeah,
a show with real reality would be very boring. Because most people don't fight all the time. Most grown-ass women don't slap their sisters on national TV. Most people don't lose a 72,000 diamond, earring in the water. I only know that because my wife used to watch that stuff. I'm ashamed to know that though. But I mean, life is not that dramatic.
I grew up in a town with some, rich housewives. There wasn't that much drama. I guess I know some rich housewives now. There's not that much drama.
See, I grew up in a small town where everybody knew all your stuff anyway too, and they were so bored they liked nothing more than to gossip, right? They would make stuff up. Yeah, exactly. See, you already knew how I was going with it. They would make stuff up, So that's why I was always very quiet, We have another close friend who he and I grew up together, and that was our thing, especially with when it came to women. My dad taught me early, keep your mouth shut, remain a mystery, and nobody will have any ideas about you. And that way you can, move about as you want. And I really stuck to that rule, I was very big on privacy, even now, But again, you guys have to watch what you're letting inside of you. And that includes your own feelings. That includes these bullshit beliefs that you've created. And another thing, guys, I'm sorry, but it's going to take some work. Most of you on the sub are between the ages of like 21 and 65. Wide range of people. The 20-year-olds, you guys got it easy. You've only had 20-something years of bullshit. So it's not going to take you as long as us older people like myself, who was in his 40s when he started this. I had 40 years of shit to clean up. But even that, 2 or 3 weeks of nothing but strict mental diet, and I trained my brain to think a completely different way. I've told you guys.
Let's talk about what does that mean, like a lot of work. Now, what springs to mind for me, the big thing is that really what we're talking about here is it's just a new habit, right? So you just have to be aware that you had an old habit and you're going to be starting a new habit. So yeah, it's work. It's, but is it really that hard? I mean, yeah, it's difficult, but it's also something where if you're just persistent, and persistence is a big Neville Goddard thing too, it's going to happen eventually. So, you don't necessarily have to worry about it. And that's also something we talk about. You're not supposed to worry about it. But what are your thoughts? What makes it work?
Well, I think
especially, and you see a lot of clients. So
I think an easy way for me, what I did was I thought back to, funny enough, acting school. I studied Meisner, and one of the things they do to help you become a good actor is you learn how to become real in an imaginary situation. And you start off very simply just repeating things. The beginning of Meisner is all about repetition. And through the repetition, becoming comfortable with something, shifting to that way of thinking, way of talking, way of believing, until eventually it becomes like second nature. And then also doing these activities that would keep your mind off of the fact that this is not real. I'm on a stage. There are people in front of me watching. Yeah. So we would do an activity as well as repeat that activity over and over and over and over again. Well, what do you think techniques are? It was literally called a technique. Techniques are you doing something over and over and over again in order to believe that that thing you're trying to shift and believe is true now. You do it over and over and over again to get the feeling of it being natural and like it's done. So for me, that's what I did. I tell you guys the first, I think it was week and a half was really tough. The first 3 days especially, I stayed home to do nothing but mental diet, watch every thought. And I'm not going to lie, when I did that, I was like, oh my God, I am so negative.
Right.
I always thought I was a kind of positive person. I was like, I have a bad story for everything.
That was one of the things I was thinking about too, is no complaining.
No complaint. I mean, I remember.
And that includes your thoughts. If your thought is complaining or whining or whinging or anything like that, just be like, no.
It was things like stupid things. Yeah, I would clean the house. Man, I was a little tired when I cleaned. I didn't do as great of a job as I could have. The house was nice, right? I remember once health stuff too. I took a pee once and I was like, wow, that was a really long pee. I guess I'm getting old now and maybe I should go get. It was like I was creating medical problems in my head, right? Because I watched something on TV about prostate exams and colon cancer and go get checked out. And I was like, oh God, I'm in that age range now. I don't watch that stuff anymore. Right? I mean, I try to keep it very positive. But I also watch my thoughts. If something is really starting to affect me, I will change the channel. I don't need to finish it. It's the same thing with our daughter. We do not let her watch certain things. I want to keep her as innocent and as open to new things for as long as I can. And then I tell the story that that's easy to do. And so far, so good. I mean, I know she's going to grow up eventually, but right now, but I also intend that when that stuff does happen, she'll be ready for it. Again, I've gotten rid of those bad stories and I am pre-paving my life with new stories. That way, when we get to that point, it's already been created. And that's a good mental diet. Dr. Dwyer, who studied with Neville, I believe he was one of his pupils, actually, Wayne Dwyer, who had those PBS specials that were great until he died, God rest him. But he would talk about
segment. That's actually
how
I heard about Neville Goddard.
Yeah. Remember he would
my
talk
wife
about
just
segment.
happened to have this PBS special on. This Wayne Dwyer guy is talking about Neville Goddard. I'm like, what's this all about? And so I started, looking at him up on the internet and, just probably found some YouTube videos and stuff. And I'd start listening to him and I was like, oh, wow, this is fascinating.
I think all of us, when we find Neville, it's the right time. It's really finding God. God points you in that direction. especially if you are like I was, where you were angry at religion and stuff and you weren't going to hear anything about God. It snuck up on me because here comes this guy that makes a lot of sense, but then I find out it's all Bible based, and I'm like, well, shit. Okay, maybe I need to read the Bible. And then Anders is telling me the same thing. Well, this is all in the Bible too. You know, that's where he gets all this stuff from. So I'm like, he's a genius, and you're like, well, he's really just read the Bible. He's really just studied it. You know?
Yeah, it's all in the books of the Bible, and there's a lot in there. And the other things I find fascinating too is I mean, I want to do more daily scripture reading, but there's a lot of parts where I'll just go to a certain thing and I'll be like, oh wow, I don't remember seeing this like sentence before, you know, like, oh wow, like I'm sure I've read this chapter like several times for different reasons, and I'm like, oh wow, I don't remember this. And then I even read another chapter, which actually probably Neville who mentioned the chapter, and I was like, oh, I don't even remember the chapter being in here. This is weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I keep reading too, because I forget. Tonight before the call, Anders was like, oh, you should tell the story of the ducks. And I'm like, I know this story, but remind me what the story of the ducks is. Anders,
should we talk about the Neville Goddard story?
Let's talk about the ducks, because
okay, so this is not a Bible story. This is a good Neville Goddard story. So Neville Goddard was talking about his childhood growing up in Barbados, and he sounded like they lived in a house with a nice amount of land, and it was probably a lot smaller society back then, and they didn't have refrigeration, and they had lots of plentiful fish from the sea, and so they would have all this leftover fish, and they had land and all these ducks, and they'd hang out by the pond and they'd feed the ducks fish, and the ducks loved it. But the problem with that is that the ducks start to taste like fish, basically, is if they eat a lot of fish. So if his mom would tell him, hey, you got to put some ducks away, which means they take them away from the pond and where all the old, leftover fish is, which they were giving the ducks, and then they'd put them in, presumably in a fenced off area, and feed them grain and he said sour milk and things like that. And after maybe 10 days, the ducks would taste like the ducks I'm used to eating, and they'd be delicious. But you had to give it a good 10 days. So apparently one time he screwed up and forgot, and then he took the ducks like 5 days before they're going to have their duck dinner, and put them away, and it did not work at all. And so his mom went to all the work of killing them and feathering them and cooking them, and you could just smelled like fish. It tasted like fish, but it looks like a duck and feels like a duck, and everyone was completely grossed out. And so that's a great example of diets. Your diet does affect you, and that's a very physical example.
It takes a little time for you to become a duck, especially when you've been a fish for a while and eating a lot of fish and doing what fish do. That's what a lot of you guys have been doing. You've been fish for a long time, and now you're trying to go back to, well, you know what I mean? You've been eating fish for a long time, and as a result of it, you have fish all inside of you. You smell like a fish, all that stuff. But really, you're a duck, and you need to get back to being a duck. Get back to being that delicious version of yourself, which in the case of an SP makes sense too, right? Because when you met them, you were not in this desperate, crazy state. You were just able to meet them and be the best version of you, most of you at least, right? And they fell in love with you. I think the ones who never get to that point where they get the relationship and they never get the actual commitment, it's because when you guys get to that point, you are still not being a duck, or you're being the ducks that eat fish, and you're trying to manipulate things. You're trying to be something you're not. Suddenly you're interested in whatever the guy or the girl's interested in, and you're just not being genuine and true, and it always catches up with you. We talked about that in an earlier podcast. That was an issue I even had. And again, guys, everything I say, don't take it personal. Listen to it. If it triggers you, it's probably because it's true. And I say that because it would trigger me when people would say it to me. And that was because it was true. There's a reason why it triggers you. But when you start to change your stories, especially about yourself, the crazy thing is that proof that you guys all need starts showing up. without you having to do those things. Because you're starting to believe when you act the right way, you are genuine, you're real, and you're keeping a good mental diet about, like, I am an honest person. I don't manipulate. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't take the easy way. If you're telling yourself, I'm a good man, a good husband, a good father, a good provider, the world starts showing up and telling you, yes, you are.
Yeah, it's like, I'm someone
And
who's likable. I'm someone who can, learn this new role in this job. I'm someone who my significant person can like. I can
I'm an
be
asset to this
the
company.
way I
I'm an asset
am
to
and be
all
likable
companies.
and be desirable. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm
And
desirable. I'm irreplaceable. I'm irresistible. We've tested that out on the sub, guys. I told you guys about those two. I'm irresistible, and I'm irreplaceable, and people were doing them, and boom. Same thing with the money stuff. They got
nice.
off the mindset of being poor and needing money and just said, you know what? I'm going to go for it and say money comes to me quickly, easily, and by a denomination they believed. So don't go saying millions and billions if you've never gotten millions and billions and you don't even know what that feels like. But if you got thousands or hundreds, then start with that. Ask yourself, what's the most amount of money I've manifested? And then say, okay, well, I at least got that. I can do more. I remember I said I manifested $8,000 in a week. I'm going to go for 10. Because I really believed it was very easy to manifest that 8,000, I hit 10 no problem. But I just kept
but if you
persisting
went
with
from 0
every
to
week.
10, that would be hard. But going from 8 to 10
Yeah.
is easy. And I think that happens for a lot of people when you listen to their business story. They're like doing something and then they're trying to think of something, and all of a sudden someone's like, agrees with that first thing and is like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give you like some money for this. Like, oh wow, really? Wait, how money for this? This is amazing. And then they really believe it, because and then I think it really starts to accelerate from there.
Yeah. And guys, what you have
Getting
to
that first
also
one.
realize is other people's success stories have nothing to do with you and if you'll be successful. Simply taking the easy way out and just saying things that other people said, it might not help you. If you know my story, most of you would not say anything near what I was saying. You weren't going through anything similar to that. The stuff I said would not make sense in your situation. So just because I said it and it worked doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You have to get real with yourself and say what is believable. Like with the testing where you're writing things down. I tell you, pick something you think is possible to see at first, but also that you don't care about seeing. And then I tell you, don't worry about if you see it or don't see it. That's the secret to this whole thing right there, So you guys have to start at the right place for you, right? So many of you are like, I see my person. We're married now. He's my husband. I get it. But, and then we get the but and the real story.
Yeah.
Don't start with that then.
The but is when the mental diets start to come in, the bad ones.
Yeah. Start with, we're back together now. It's better than ever now.
Yeah.
We love each other more than ever now.
Replace
I am
the
in a
but with an
happy, healthy, loving relationship. And it's better than ever now. Make sure whatever you're saying, your belief statement, you have an and to, and it's greater than ever now. Like Neville with Isn't It Wonderful, right, Anders? Isn't it wonderful now that, and then you say that thing that you want to be, that wonderful thing you want to have now. Like the lady in The Law and the Promise. She was like, what do you do if you have a bunch of things you need to fix? I'm old. I can't get a job. I don't have clothes to go get a job. Nobody wants to hire me. I don't have a car to get to the job. I don't have a decent place to live. And she just started saying, isn't it wonderful now that I have everything I need? Now that everything is worked out for me. Not working out, worked out for her. Stop putting it in the future too, guys. Stop saying, I know he's going to come back. He's back. I know she'll give me a second chance. She did. It worked. Thank God now without the proof, and don't look back like Lot's wife. Go towards your second chance. It's there for you. But a lot of you start to take that journey and you keep looking back, and then you get turned to a pillar of salt, a literal preservative, because you're preserving the old state, the old you. You can't do that. And it all starts with what you're feeding your mind, what you're feeding your body, what you're feeding your soul, right? You eat crap food, you feel run down and tired. How many of you guys eat dinner and you're like, man, we got to stop eating like this? I'm getting fat or I'm getting sick or whatever. I got to stop eating till I can't, eat anymore and it hurts. Stop doing that then. I don't know why I watch this garbage on TV. It makes me feel sad, right? My wife and I used to love Law and Order SVU marathons until about like 2 or 3 hours into it, and we're like, this is just getting a little depressing. I think it's getting a little depressing, right? Like it's been like 4 or 5 hours of like rape, kids getting kidnapped, people being sexually assaulted. We loved the Ice-T episodes where he would explain to the white people, funny stuff. But like most of them were like really like hardcore things, especially the ones that are like ripped from the headlines. You're like, shit, that really happened. I didn't know it happened like that either. That's really messed up.
Yeah.
And you start watching enough of that and you're like, shit, I'm depressed. I don't feel like doing anything now. Let's eat something really bad first, and then we can complain about how we eat crap food all the time too. You got to break those cycles.
Just time to eat that tub of ice cream. It's not going to eat itself.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but you guys, the other thing too is you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have to stop with these emotional realities that you create in your head that aren't true. You're sitting there thinking my SP is out just passing it around, and every guy that wants a piece is getting a piece. Women are like, my guy's out there just raining sperm on the world. And the truth is, they're not. They are missing you too, even if they broke up with you. Your ex-boyfriend is deciding if he's going to jerk off before or after he eats the Ben and Jerry's because he's thinking of you. Because he watched a movie and he's like, that was like us. Why'd I break up with her? Especially if you're doing your mental diet, he's going to miss you. If you don't break it ever, it's going to happen fast. And then the other mistake is don't rush it. Trust it. That's a big part of the mental diet, is trusting it, persisting in it.
Yeah,
keep
patience.
it going until it shows up. It's going to even give you proof. Signs follow, they don't precede. But you are going to have signs before the manifestation happens. The signs that will follow means they follow the work. It's why Neville talks about birds before land. It's why SP people are like, damn, every ex has called me. I literally had a girl from when I was in 5th grade message me on Facebook because she wrote a poem about me and wanted me to possibly come to a poetry reading because it was a very popular poem. And everybody would always ask her, what happened to that Bryguy guy? It was all about first love and how even when I broke up with her, I did it in a nice way, and people loved it. I went to the reading and people were like, oh my God, he's here. It was crazy.
That is wild.
If I really would have been single, I could have got tons of dates. It was the best PR ever. The first girl I ever kissed in 6th grade behind the shed in military housing. She's married, going through shit with her husband. And she's like, I know before when you asked me if I remembered you, I was like, I think so, but I really remember you. You were like my first love. Like, as a matter of fact, I've compared all men to you. I'm like, but we were 12. I wasn't even a man. I know, but you were just so sweet. And I was like, man, if she knew what I grew up to be. We found out later that I actually dated her best friend who moved to my town years later and was an absolute jerk to her. They touched base and she's like, guess who I talked to? And she's like, oh, that jerk? And she's like, what are you talking about? He's so sweet. She's like, yeah, we do not know the same guy. But I would tell bad stories. I would warn women, I'm gonna break your heart. I'm not as charming and as great as you think I am. This being an actor shit is cool now, and being an artist is cool until you realize I can't take you out to dinner. Until you realize, like, you're gonna have to settle for a lot of shit until I hopefully make it big. I remember we would talk about my wife and I would talk about, like, we're doing this, she's supporting us right now, and then like I'll hit it big and it's great, right? But we compared it to like the woman who helps her husband through medical school. And Anders, it was either you or one of our other friends that was like, yeah, bro, but at the end of that road, that guy's a fucking doctor. You might not be a successful actor. You might not be a successful writer. You might not be anything. You might have to go wash dishes for the rest of your life because you never had a job. Like, that dude is in medical school. It's gonna pay off unless he quits. But he's probably not, especially, when they have it easy and a woman supporting him. It's gonna increase their chances. But again, at the end, she ends up with a doctor.
Yeah, well, I think too, it's the story, you tell yourself too. So, everyone has different situations, and yeah, certain things are easier, and it depends on the woman you're with. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of different people have different types of relationships, and I think the big thing is you were saying is, if you're going to tell that story that things aren't going to work out because I'm an actor, then that's kind of how things are going to work out, But if, in a lot of cases, I think, if a couple really loves each other, they're going to be there for each other, and they're just going to be happy that they're able to take care of each other.
I had a really bad story with my wife too. I would say to her all the time, I'm your literal first love. I'm the first guy you've ever said I love you to, even though you dated other guys. But I didn't think about that before we got married. She's like, what does that have to do with anything? I was like, everything. You can't really love somebody until you've been shit on. And it was just a story.
Yeah,
it's just a story. I heard it on a stupid TV show one time. The guy was like, you can't really love me. You've never been shit on. You don't understand how dangerous love is. You're on cloud nine. This is your first love. It's all puppy dogs and ice cream cones. So you don't have that fear of it going away. Even if I told you it could go away, you're still never going to really understand just how bad it feels.
Yeah, which is so not helpful, although it is true that
self-fulfilling prophecy.
But it is true that a lot of people, I think, do confuse, romantic love and infatuation and all that with love. And, loving someone really is a choice. I mean, it's, in some cases, it's almost a cliche if you've listened to enough stuff, but it is true. Like, you have to choose to love the other person. And even when, they're not being very lovable, and that's what it's about. And people do that, there's hopefully all of you guys can see examples of that in your lives, but if you haven't, like, definitely I hope you do get to see examples of couples who have taken the time to really love each other and be through thick or thin, and see it as worthwhile, because that is a beautiful thing. And if you don't see it that way, I think hopefully you can see similar ways of how people have treated children or other relatives or young children. I think people are probably especially willing
There's
to.
Plenty of examples of
willing
real
to
true love.
Yeah, just be so. Just like you were talking about, like you're willing to put up with your daughter puking all over you.
Yeah, I saw how scared she was, and I was like, oh my god, this is the first time she's actually like aware of the fact that she's throwing up. Before it was just involuntary. She was a baby. It was like, they're very moment to moment, but now she's like in this moment, and she's like, what is this? It won't stop. I'm choking. And I had to calm her down, and suddenly when you see that on your child's face, you don't care anymore. The smell goes away. It's like when I would play football, right? I cannot tell you anything about any game I was ever in. Any tackle I made, any play I made, I cannot remember them unless somebody told me afterwards. Or right after you pick up the fumble, you start running towards the sideline and you go, oh, I have the football in my hand. I recovered a fumble. Here you go, ref. But you're just so into it, and you just see fumble and you jump on the ball because they train you to do that. You literally practice jumping on the ball, that it becomes your second nature. And you're not even aware that you're doing it. They teach you how to be instinctive like that. All those things are techniques. The big thing with football that they try to drill into your head is you must know the fundamentals and the techniques if you're ever going to be good at this game. And I'm assuming it's the same with every sport, but it's the same thing with anything you want to be good at. right? What's the saying? You don't master it until you've put in at least 10,000 hours. And I used to think that was ridiculous, but it's very true, because at 10,000 hours, you have done it so much, it is second nature.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of an overestimate, but it does give you an idea.
Yeah.
I think this ties in though to what we're talking about with mental diets, which is that it is about persistence and practice over time. But sometimes you can learn things, but just take time. Like one example, which I think of in my life from time to time is, I thought of myself as someone who's not good at sports, because I wasn't good at sports. I definitely was not playing football. I was riding bench for the JV soccer team, and I
How are
liked
you
playing
not the
it.
star center though in your basketball team?
Oh
You're
well,
like what, 6'7"?
well, I'm not that tall, but the other irony, right, was I wasn't actually that tall at freshman year in high school. I was probably only like 5'7", 5'8", and then I
Oh
actually
wow.
grew in college a few inches. But I was a skinny, tall, skinny person, or ended up a tall, skinny person, and after being a short, skinny person who wasn't particularly fast. And then, but anyway, so the point of the story though is that when I was older, actually, I don't even know how old I was. I might have even been in my 30s. I never went skiing when I was little, but I went with a friend of mine, and he just wanted me to come hang out with him. And he was like, "Oh, well, you should go skiing." I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And he's like, "Well, you should just try it." And so I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to try it." And but what was good about it was that I just said, "You know what? I'm just going to be terrible at this." And so I just went on like the little beginner's course, and they just teach you how to do it. And I was absolutely terrible for a week, and then got at the end of a week of skiing every day. I got good enough that I could kind of go down the green course, and I wasn't very good. But then I went with him because he was one of these rare people who him and his family knew how to take advantage of timeshares. So it's like really nice timeshare condo, and they could trade it, and then you go on like a different ski vacation every year, and like someplace awesome, like like Vail or Park City, Utah, or Lake Tahoe. So every week I'd go with him, and I would just spend a week all day learning to ski. And each day I'd only do a week a year, probably. Maybe I'd get to go one other time for a couple days, some years. But after a few years, I was going down black diamonds in the back of Vail with my friend. It's like trees all over the place. And I was perfectly safe, never got hurt. Definitely fell a bunch of times, but it wasn't a big deal. I knew how to fall properly, and I always think of that as a good example for me to remember. Like, if you believe you can learn something and you work at it persistently, and you accept that you're not going to be good at it instantaneously, you could learn it. And I didn't spend thousands of hours. I spent maybe I'd probably spend a couple hundred hours learning to ski. You know what I mean? But hey, I can ski a black diamond. Although I did go to Jackson Hole, and I will admit that that mountain definitely beat me up.
Well, I mean
that's a
that
hard
brings
mountain.
up,
But then my friend told me it's for experts only, so then I felt a lot better. It's like, okay, so maybe you do need, maybe you do need 2,000 hours to do well on that mountain. But yeah, so I think that's what I want to encourage you guys is, if you, it's just a matter of sort of persistence over time. And I took a very relaxed view to learning how to ski, and I was like, I just accept it. I'm not going to be good at it initially, but I'm going to keep at it. And I think that like positive attitude really paid off.
Yeah, I agree. I think persistence is key, and how you look at the situation is crucial too. Again, I think back to football in high school. We had a coach who wasn't very keen on anybody going to a school bigger than where he played, and he didn't play at a very great school, so he didn't really help anybody out. And I remember the seniors would all tell us that, and we were like, "Oh no, he'll help us," and he didn't. And during our senior year, a lot of us slacked off. We still did well, but we could have done way better. But we slacked off because we weren't hitting the weights as hard, because we're like, why am I going to work for this jerk? On top of that, he replaces us halfway through the game when we win with these younger guys. So, they'll, be good next year. Who cares about next year? We're trying to win state this year,
Yeah.
But then as soon as our football season was over and we knew we were going to college, And some of us were trying to get scholarships. Some of us had scholarships. Some were trying to get one. Some were like, I got to make sure I keep it when I get there. Especially those of us who were going like Division 1, 1AA, all that stuff, even Division 2, we knew you have to show up because it's not just the guys who are good in your part of your little town. It's the guys who are good all over the country.
Yep.
So I remember we would hit the weights extra hard, run drills, all the stuff we hated to do. We had to run hills as punishment. We were running them for fun to train. And our old coach was like, if you guys would have worked this hard during the season, you probably would have been all state instead of all conference. You probably would have been, all state instead of all district. And we're like, yeah, but like you let us know you didn't really care about us. Why were we going to put that effort in for you? Like we told them flat out, you made us feel like we weren't appreciated. So we're not going to put the extra effort in for you. But now we're going somewhere and we're doing it for us. So we're going to go all out. And we're not going to risk having another coach like you. We're going to take our future and put it in our own hands. And we did, and that's what you guys have to do. You have to start taking your future and putting it in your own hands. You have to really watch everything you're letting in. You have to really watch who you think you are, who you think you can be, what you think is possible. And you got to literally keep saying more, bigger, better, stronger, faster, all of that. I find myself all the time. Reach a certain level of success. It's great. What's next? I have a beautiful home. Wait, look at that. That's really beautiful. I deserve that. Then you go get that. Then you do get to a place too where you're like, all right, some of this stuff is a little superficial. I don't care anymore. How can I help others? That's a great place to be because when you're there, you're usually in a really good place yourself. A lot of you guys want to trick yourself into thinking you're there, and that's why you're all trying to help each other on the sub. But it's because you want to feel like you know something, you understand something. You're really asking those people to validate you and say, oh, that's a great idea. That sounds like it'll work. And you're like, I don't really know if it does, though. And I don't take my own advice. Anders, we've talked about that, right? We say, man, you give me great advice. And you're like, you give great advice too. And we're like, if only we could take our own advice, right? If only we could just listen to ourselves, We're guilty of it too, guys. Sometimes we're not our own source. We would have talks sometimes just to make each other feel better. But we would also remind ourselves to be our own source.
One thing
constantly reminding me of that,
Yeah. And one thing which was just reminding me of too was Neville talks a lot about states.
Yes.
And it was reminding me of too lately that there's a difference between goals and states. So for some people, they can have a goal, then they get the goal, and then they just sit there and they're like, oh, now what? But if you're in a state of oneness with God, or a state of being the kind of man or woman
or abundant
that you want to
be successful,
that you're full of love for your fellow man, that you're somebody people like to be around, that you're a blessing to other people, that you have a that there's these general things, because even you might have kids, but your kids are going to grow up someday, so you don't want to be sitting there sad at 55 or whatever. But when you're in this state of being one with God, or all these different states, and that's one of the things you can definitely talk to God about or get inspiration about, and I definitely, each one person has their own path, then that's a real blessing. And so I just want to encourage people to look out for that.
And the way to get into those states is to be genuine, be true to yourself, face your fears, trust in God. When you do that, you are going to believe you deserve that stuff, and that's what's going to be playing in your mind over and over again. Well, I don't take the easy way out. That was hard to do, but I did it. Again, like we talked about, these tests are not tests from God. They're God showing you that you have courage. You asked him for courage. He doesn't just go, Shazam, you're courageous. He gives you an opportunity to show yourself that you now are courageous. But it's going to be something scary. That's what courage is being courageous in the face of fear, not giving into the fear. So if you don't want that, don't ask for it, because you're going to need to prove to yourself by facing your fears. And a lot of you guys, you want to just work on the SP. You want to just work on the money, just work on the job. And then you're still telling all these bad stories throughout the day about yourself and why you don't deserve or can't have those things. Well, I just graduated from college. I can't have that position. Well, I haven't been at my current position long enough. Well, she's better looking than me. He's more popular than me. Whatever. It's all just a story, and that is your mental diet. You're allowing crap in your head. You're telling bad stories over and over again. Literally, everything you say is a story. From the produce at that grocery store sucks. Say that and watch how the best grocery store suddenly has the worst produce. You can make anything happen. This whole narcissist thing, right? We don't want to face ourselves, face our fears, and be like, you know what? If I'm having a problem with every guy, I'm the fucking problem. I've had clients who told me their exes were narcissists, and they'll say, the funny thing is, I've talked to several of his exes, and they said they never saw that. So they must have been blind to it. He was that good at it. I'm like, sweetie, they weren't blind to it. They weren't saying he was a narcissist. You were. Guys, women are cheaters. Women always leave. No wonder you keep meeting those women. It's your story, and you've said it so much, it's your belief. Anders, we were talking about this right before the call. I don't get that drama. I never was cheated on. I just never thought it happened. I'd be like, that's so weird. Like, why would you date somebody that's going to cheat on you? How would you not know if somebody's like a cheating type of person? I was very good. I would meet girls. I thought she's very pretty, this and that. But man, that girl's a mess. I'm not dating her. I would try to sleep with him, yeah, but I wasn't going to date him. Some of you guys will just take whatever you can get and you ignore all the red flags and everything. But even that is just a story. Change the story about him. Yeah. And that person will change. But again, you can't begin to do that until you have a good mental diet and a good idea of who you are now and you believe that. Because it doesn't matter what the person's out there doing. If you're a catch, anybody knows cheaters stop cheating when they have the catch. They're not going to fuck it up. They'll know when they have a good thing. If that's your story. That's how I would think. She's cheated on other people, yeah, but she never dated me and I'm awesome. So that would stop. Why would she do that? That was my story. So that's what would happen. But I would tell the girls I date with, hey, like, if we get out of this without me cheating, you're going to be the first. You're going to be the lucky one. Even with my wife, she was asking me all the time, would you ever cheat? And I was like, no, but not because of what you think. I know I could at any time actually cheat. So I just get my ass out of Dodge by a certain hour. When I'm out with the guys, after a certain hour, I'm like, nothing good can happen from staying out. And they're all doing their thing, the single guys, so I jump out of there. But again, it was just a story, right? It's like the story married guys, well, my wedding ring gets me more offers than when I was single. It's just a story. Why the fuck would a bunch of women want to, and they're like, well, because they know you're a closer. Yeah, but your store's already closed, right? Any woman that wants a closed store, like wants to, break into something, like it's not somebody you're going to want to date anyway. But again, if you change the story about them too, and you can fix anything. There was somebody on there that even had an abusive husband and changed him. Me, I probably would have been like, I'm out of here. I love myself too much to even bother changing him. But God bless her. She loved him. So she changed him.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's her right. But I think that happened too. So a lot of you guys could see, no matter what the circumstance. Same with me. No matter what the circumstance. It can all be changed. But it starts with that argument. So that was the other thing we wanted to talk about, Anders, is a lot of people, why don't you get into that? Like, because you witnessed it with me. And the
mental
times I would
arguments.
say one thing and then immediately go into but, right? And then you'd be like, now see, this is where you're going wrong. You just said she's the love of your life, and you're like, but, and then now you're telling all this bad shit about her. So go ahead, I'll let you.
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely. And there's a couple parts to that. The first part is there's definitely, first time I kind of heard about this, there was a Neville Goddard story where he was talking about this young woman who was working, I think, in an office, and she was talking about how she didn't get along with her boss, like blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And then Neville Goddard realizes, talking to her, that she was always mentally arguing with her boss, and so she was always, felt, confrontational, like, oh, he doesn't appreciate her, he's wrong, or he's like, oh, I can't believe he's like, thinking these things about me, or like blah blah. But that was what she was going through her head all the time. And so when she stopped doing it and started having positive conversations in her head about her boss, or her boss imagined her boss saying positive things to her, lo and behold, their relationship improved. And so I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. And then this definitely comes into the whole double-minded thing, which is that, if you're constantly, complaining about your significant person, or saying, oh, they don't appreciate me, or they're never going to change, or they're never going to see that I changed, or, whatever it is, if you keep doing that, that's going to affect them. And,
mm-hmm.
You can say it, it's just going to affect them spiritually. That's just how they're going to show up. It's easier for you to believe. You can also see, like, well, actually the way you talk to them is probably going to be affected. It's going to, there's going to be subtle hints which you're going to drop about how you feel about them, and they're going to pick up on that. And they're not going to be happy. They might not even know that they're picking up on it, but they're going to.
Yeah,
and
Freudian slips.
Yeah, and it's going to be an issue. So you want to really watch, especially, I guess, the more important that person is to you. You really want to watch how you look at them, or especially, I guess, in work too. Like, love your customers. Be, thankful. Don't think of them as a pain, as somebody who's hassling you. Think of, like, oh wow, this is great. They called. I get to help them. I get to be there for them and work it out. So I think this is very important, and it says in the Bible too, you can't serve two masters. And so you want to really serve, what's the master you want to serve? Well, you want to serve what's the good ideal. And the good ideal is,
you want to serve the real God. Yeah, which is always love, and just the good in life. The good story, the happy ending.
Yeah.
Why would God put something in your heart, a desire in your heart, and not give it to you? Do you understand that if that's what happened, by now we would have all figured it out and said, don't waste your time with that God thing. He's the biggest dick in the history of creation. But that's not what we think. Instead, we think we're not worthy of stuff. But he's telling you you are. That's why I'm giving you this desire. I'm telling you, you can have it if you believe. Jesus always says stuff to you. You can have it. Ask and it's given. But he always ends it with, if you believe. There's no but. Some of you won't, because da-da-da-da-da. But this person, oh, see that guy, he's an asshole. Like, but this person's stupid. See, they'll never figure it out. No. That's the other thing, guys. You guys are always making excuses why you can't do shit. It's really funny how you tell me you can't visualize and have a mental conversation with somebody in your head for the things you want them to say, yet you cannot stop visualizing and having a mental argument with them where they say all the things you don't want them to say. It's the same thing.
Yeah, especially when you're predicting
your story. Yeah.
And proclaiming, well, this person's just going to be like this. They're just going to be like that.
You're not breaking agreement with it.
That. I remember there was a kind of stuck in my head. we had a call with a client, a potential client, and they were all kind of partners working with, seemed a little like freaked out and like, oh, you know, blah blah, we have to like, you know, negotiate, like, you know, give away all this stuff, like blah blah. I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, I basically just went on the call and I just like kind of smiled and I was like, hey, how's it going? Great to meet you. Like kind of nodded and it was like with the lawyers or whatever about the contract. And then we're just talking. And then at a certain point they're like, oh, okay. So that's your Anders. Oh, and that's your company. Oh, okay. We just weren't sure who that this company was. Oh, okay, great. Okay, that answers our question. I was like, oh, okay, great. And I just like smiled and, you know, just kind of nodded and agreed with them. And then they signed the contract. and, you know, they didn't actually want to change any terms or do anything else like that. And, you know, we got the nice, sweet deal, which we wanted. And it was great. And we were able to help them out and save them a ton of money. Yeah, so it was good.
But a lot of you guys get to that place where you're about to get the big sale, and then you start doubting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start saying, what if I can't handle this job? They're going to find out I'm a phony. I'm a fake. Right? Actors do that.
Yeah,
all
they're
the
going to
time,
find
right?
out we're charging too much, or they're going to want some other thing, or they're not going to be a satisfied customer.
Yeah, we finally get that job. And then we're like, oh shit, I'm the lead. I got to carry this thing. Who the hell am I? No one's going to come see this. No one's going to come see this play. No one's going to come watch this movie. No one's going to watch this TV show. Nobody's going to want to pick it up. Who the hell am I? And you talk yourself out of being successful. I remember Sidney Poitier used to talk about that. You know you're in the zone, but when you're in the zone, sometimes you catch the fact that you're in the zone, and that's when you got to be careful. Because he would say I'd be in the middle of a brilliant take and I'd be like, oh my God, this is brilliant. He said, and the first thing I'd have to remind myself is, now get out of your head and don't fuck it up.
Yep.
So he would purposely get back in the moment, do an activity, get his mind focused back on what he was doing and stay on track. A lot of you guys don't do that. You jump on Reddit, you read other people's stories, you're up trying to help them. Fuck them. Seriously, fuck them. You can't help them anyway until you're done. Go get you done. Be selfish. If ever you're going to be selfish in your life, that is the time to do it. You can always go back and help everybody, but you got to help you first. You got to get there first. When you do, watch how fast that person comes back. Watch how quickly you get that job. Watch how fast money comes pouring in. Guys, here's the deal. Getting the SP back, getting the job, getting the money, it is as easy as a free cup of coffee. The problem is your mental diet, your story does not say that. So you get whatever it says. It's way harder. I can't do sats. I can't do this. Neville has given you, I don't know how many techniques. If you can't do one, people are like, what do I do if I can't fall asleep? I can't this. First of all, you don't have to fall asleep during sats. It's state akin to sleep. You don't have to go to sleep. What he's saying is if you fall asleep in it for 8 hours because it's the last thing you focused on, you're going to dream, think about it. It's going to keep running. So you've got his frequency, which he talks about, right? The duration, which he talks about. You're frequenting, going back to that part of your dream over and over again, and you're getting duration. So you're getting both the two things that he says work, you know? So that's why that stuff matters. But guys, if you do a mental diet all day, guess what? You're carrying it into sleep too. So if you're bad at sats, do a mental diet. If you're bad at mental diets, visualize. When you test it every day with those 6 things, say, these 3 things I'm going to do visualizing, these 3 things I'm going to do with a sat, these 3 things I'm going to do with affirmations, whatever. See what works. Stop getting focused on, but it'll slow me down. It won't make it happen. I won't get it today. Who gives a shit? Worrying you won't get it today is actually what's going to keep you from getting it today. Saying, I'm just going to go and figure this out and it'll show up is what makes that happen. Stop arguing with yourself in your head too. Stop saying, I believe I'm going to get it, and then saying, but, and then telling us all the reasons why you can't have it.
Yeah,
anybody who's ever accomplished anything, stop saying the bad story and just said, we'll just figure it out.
Like, it wasn't believable for me that I could learn how to ski in a day and be great at it. Maybe if I was a kid, it would be believable. And, you know, you definitely see some kids where they just, you know, take like a duck to water. But for me, what was believable was that I could learn it somehow. And so I stuck with that, and stayed positive throughout the process.
Yeah.
And so
the same thing with me with football. You decide I want to be better, and I'm just as big, just as strong as these guys, yet I'm getting overlooked. And then you spend that summer where you hit the weights hard, you train hard, and you come back. I remember the difference just from high school to college, coming back, and a group of guys I played ball with, we would have an annual, everybody would get together and play football. And a lot of us that went away and had more training were like, shit, man. The other guys were like, damn, dude, you're good. You were never this good in high school. You're like fast. Like, dude, you're strong. And it's like, yeah, well, I kept lifting. I kept practicing. I kept learning the techniques. I literally would beat this stuff in my head. We'd do drills in college till, it was like a job. It's like our other friend. He did the same thing. He didn't even start in high school, yet he goes to college and is like a total badass. Right?
Yeah.
And it's because deep down he believed he was good. He believed he was robbed. He had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But the problem is a lot of you guys have that chip on your shoulder and you use it to destroy you. You argue with that chip all the time in your head.
Yeah, I'm always going to be overlooked. I'm, never going to be picked.
Make that chip encourage.
Never going to be good enough.
Fuck that. I'll show everybody. Damn right you will. And guys, you're not moving on from your SP. You're moving forward. And then ironically, what will happen is they'll see that and be like, oh, I want to be with that. And you say, fine, catch up. You don't say, let me stop. I'll wait for you. When you say, well, I'm going to continue to move forward, you can catch up. They'll be like, I want to catch up. I want to be where you're at. Look at how healthy you look. Look how great you are. Shit, even if we took Neville out of it and you just wanted to get revenge on your ex, what do they say, Anders? The best revenge is a life well lived. Right?
Yeah, people would look like, oh man, I could have been with that guy. He's so awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of you guys
that
get
girl's
dumped,
so fabulous.
Go the opposite way and hit rock bottom, and they always come back to see if they made a mistake. And then they go, I'm glad I dumped that guy. I'm glad I left that crazy girl. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing that stuff. Stop making people think you're crazy because you don't believe in yourself.
Well, here's
you're
the
not
thing.
really crazy. You don't believe in yourself, and you're scatterbrained, and you're all over the place. And it seems like that, but you're not. You're not a loser. You're not a bad provider. You just don't believe in yourself. But when you do, the signs will follow. People will start to tell you, you are a good provider. Damn, you're a good dad. Remember Anders with me? I thought I was a bad dad. And then when I started believing I was a good dad, I would even say things like sometimes like, I am killing this dad game, And then if I did get down on myself, people were like, well, you know what, man? The one thing nobody can say is you are not a good dad. I see the way that kid responds to you, the way she loves you. Like, you're an amazing dad. So don't be so hard on yourself. I'd be like,
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, when I would affirm,
just take care of a little kid.
My daughter would show up and she would just tell me how amazing I am. Like the silliest things. Dad, do you make the best chicken nuggets? When you cook them, they're like crunchy and crispy, but still soft in the middle. Your tacos are amazing. Mom uses that gray meat. I don't know what it is. I'm like, turkey? She's like, yeah, it doesn't taste good. Your tacos taste really good. Like, they're my favorite tacos. Like, I told grandma her tacos are not good compared to yours, right? My daughter suddenly is like, you're a better cook than grandma. Nobody cooks tacos better than my dad. If I could have my dad's tacos every day, I would. If I could have my dad's chicken nuggets every day, I would. But I also knew, yeah, that's the easy way out, is give the kid chicken nuggets and tacos and show you everything. And then I would feel like a shit dad. But when I was like, all right, I got her to try this. I got her to eat vegetables. I got her to try this. And we would come up with creative ways. I would get her to help me cook it. And I'd be like, oh my God, you made it. It's so delicious. It tastes so good. She'd be like, really? I want to try. And I was like, now you're being a good dad. Because now maybe, yes, she gets a chicken nugget, but tonight there was no chicken nuggets. And she ate a bunch of vegetables. Because you had her cook them and grill them herself, and she thought it was cool and wanted to eat it. And then you made a big deal about how delicious it was, and she's watching you going, well, he's not going to lie to me. This shit must be delicious. So she eats it going into it thinking it's going to be delicious, right? My dad used to say that to us all the time too. The way you look at things is how they're going to show up, right? I'd be like, I don't want to eat it. It looks like that. And my dad would be like, look, if you look at a steak like it's a piece of shit, it's going to taste like a piece of shit. No wonder. You're sitting there telling yourself it's going to be a piece of shit before you even try it. But if you tell yourself, hey, this might be good. And that's what I would say to my daughter. If you look at it, I wouldn't say piece of shit. My dad was a little rougher on the edges than I am, you know, but he was like, hey, I'm not beating you, right? My old man beat me. I'm not beating you. I'm doing a good job. And he was, he was doing a really good job, you know? And I see that now that I'm older too, Again, it was all just stories.
And I think this ties into something else I want to bring up. And this might even be a topic for get into in more detail in another podcast, but for some people it may seem a little challenging, because sometimes you may be sitting there and thinking, well, but Brian, steak actually does taste terrible, or Brian, this vegetable actually tastes disgusting to me, like etc. But one thing which is interesting is that sometimes our tastes can change, and sometimes we can look at the outside world and the circumstances, and it can be really, really ingrained in us. And we're like, yeah, but that person's they're just so mean. They're just so terrible, like, etc. Because, and sometimes it can be really hard to break that, because it just seems very self-evident and this very obvious and strong fact. And so we probably should have another episode on this, but I just want to let you guys know as an audience that it is actually possible to sort of separate yourself from that, or separate yourself from sort of the experience of that, and step back and say, okay, well, I see what's happening here. Like I'm experiencing that, I don't like this person, or I'm having this emotional reaction, I'm very upset, or I'm anxious, or I'm worried about things. This is happening to me right now. But this is not actually the real me, and that the real me is actually me noticing that these things are happening, and the real me is my imagination, and that's bigger than what I'm seeing or what I'm experiencing right now, and this sort of little side I see of things. So it's definitely possible to have that picture and kind of break it. It's and that is actually a lot of what the Bible is about, is it's sort of going from people seeing sort of the external world a certain way, and seeing gods and idols there, to stepping back and realizing that actually God's within us. And so I just want to mention this to encourage people that there's another way to look at things, and how you perceive the world, or how you viscerally experience the world. It can change over time, and you can discover that that person who you thought was one way is actually a different way. So I hope that's So I'd wanted to recommend to you guys to keep that in mind as well as you go down this journey.
So I think we'll wrap it up here with two quick little things. One is
actually we could add some. I think we could add some other things too if you want. I think there's some Bible quotes too, which I wanted to bring up, which kind of tie into some of the stuff you were talking about earlier. But yeah, let's go ahead.
Go ahead and do those, and then I'll wrap it up with this success story from a client that I sent you. Remember the Australian guy who's had a lot of success stories, who had that old lady that he hated and she hated him, and we were trying to get him to prove to himself that everybody is him pushed out, and stories matter. So we'll go over what he did, and he's actually going to be a guest. I've already spoken to him on a future episode. We're going to start having some of my old clients that have had success stories on the podcast. And guys, if you've written some success stories on the sub as well, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to sit down with you guys and talk to you guys and have you share your stories in person. Because I think, like with Neville, his books were great, but when you hear him speak and you hear the lectures, a lot more of his personality, a lot more details come out, and he's not trying to make a chapter not too long or too boring. He's not worried about it. It's just like these, great nuggets of information. So feel free to write to us, share your stories, and we'll have you on and discuss it with you guys too, maybe during some of the lives as well. So why don't you share some of those? Because I did ask you about that, and I really do want to make sure we get those in. So again, we can show also that while Neville is also a great source of how to do this, Neville got everything from the Bible too. So it's very important that you guys are reading the Bible and looking at it as a how-to book. Get out of your head about all the other stuff and the whatever issues you have with the church or whatever. Read the Bible and become one with God. God is not any of that other stuff you have issues with. That's stuff that man does. God is
that's
literally
religion.
just pure unconditional love. We're not talking about religion. We're talking about the Bible as a how-to, as like what we're doing here, sharing stories to show you how to get through these tough times in your life, to show you that these times you think are horrible are actually huge blessings because you're about to go next level. But it again also depends on how you look at that. Am I being hurt, or am I about to break through? Break down or break through? Choice is yours. That's your free will. So Andrews, go ahead. I love hearing this stuff because you always have the perfect ones. He sends me stuff from his church all the time too when he's, in the middle of watching the sermon at church too. So it's kind of great.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, so we want to bring this stuff up, and we want to recommend that you guys be like the Bereans. A lot of people may not have heard of this. So the Bereans were people mentioned in Acts, and apostles went out to talk to them and about Jesus and about the good news about the gospel. And so the Bereans, they received the word, just to say the gospel, with all readiness, and searched the scriptures daily to find out whether these things were so. So that's what you recommend you guys be like the Bereans. So all the stuff we're talking about, look and see if it's in scripture. I think you'll find it. And just let it come alive in your imagination. And so one of the quotes we wrote down was, this really ties in, is Jesus states that it is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a person. So that really comes into the mental diets, right? So what are you speaking out? What are you declaring out? What are you mentally arguing with people? And it's both it's words you're saying to other people, but also it's what's in your heart. It really is a heart issue. And Jesus says that in other places, that, if you are, if you're angry at your brother or have murderous thoughts at your brother, you're guilty of murder. So you need to repent of that and put it under the blood. And then John 6 is a very amazing chapter. And in it, all these people are coming to Jesus asking for material things. And because they gave him all this bread. And Jesus says, I am the bread of life. And Jesus says, if anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And then Jesus says, he who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. And of course, everyone's really confused, right? But hopefully you guys aren't confused, because we've just been talking about mental diets for over an hour. And so if that's your diet, is Jesus, the love of God, thinking on the good things in life, the good goals, the good states which you're in, the state of being a loving person who's a blessing to other people, loves God. If that's what you're thinking, if that's your diet, you're going to go from being that duck which tastes like fish to a duck which is like duck, and where you want to be. And then another great quote is, Paul said, we are to hold all thoughts captive. And so that's a really big thing about mental diets, right? All of our thoughts. And definitely check out 2 Corinthians 10, 3-6, where he talks about it gives the full context of that. And then one of the things which really came in, and kind of really wanted to interrupt Brian, because it just, the things he were saying, this was a while ago in the podcast, really were just like what Paul said in Philippians 4:6-8, I believe. And Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. Be careful for nothing. Another way to say that is, don't be anxious, don't be worried. But in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God, right? So don't be anxious, guys. Don't be worried about things. Make your requests known and say thank you. Like, thank you that you are helping me. Thank you that you are making me the man or woman I want to be, the man or woman you want me to be. Thank you that you are helping me with my significant person, helping me get that job, helping me get that income, helping me get that career, helping me get that house, helping me get that child, whatever it is. Thank you, Lord. So, and then Paul says, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus, right? So you're going to have that peace, and you're going to be able to go through things, and you're going to have that patience while you're waiting for things to manifest. And then Paul next says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. So stay focused on those things. This is amazing, right? Philippians 4:6-8.
Because that's also Neville's description of your appointed time is. The Sabbath is when everything is like that, You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when you're believing it, when it is just it, that is the Sabbath, what you also just said, what Neville talks about. That is the appointed hour. So you don't worry anymore. You know it's done. Like, it's just a feeling that comes over you. The other thing you said that I really like was declare, because Neville and Jesus talked about this. Don't command, declare, right? Because a command is done out of a king fearing that people won't listen to him. But a declaration is, motherfucker, you're going to listen whether you want to or not. I'm not taking no for an answer. It's off with your head. Yeah.
Well, the declaration is like, tomorrow's the celebration. Tomorrow's the feast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And another thing too is somebody made a point about the Sabbath under the new covenant with Jesus is the Sabbath is resting. Well, we rest in the Lord, as we said earlier. We abide in Him, and that's our rest. Jesus is our rest. So, and
guys,
that's why
there's your answer to how to know you're in the Sabbath right there. That's it. You're resting. You're completely comfortable. You're 100% one with God and knowing it's done. And when you're there, you're not worrying when, how. You're not like, maybe now I should call her. Maybe now I should message him. No. You're like, I'm just going to enjoy being one with God and keeping my eyes on God and not Goliath. That's when you're in the Sabbath. And that's how you can defeat a monster with a pebble. It's taking comfort in that belief, letting God comfort you and say, baby, it's all right. We good. You're golden. Stay gold, pony. It's done. Because if he really has to, God is going to be like with Moses. Hold my beer, bro. I'll be right back. Let me show you what you could really do. Let me show you what it can be like. When I declare something, this is what happens. You don't listen, 7 plagues, dude. You're over there like, please, will you do it? Please, hopefully, you might not want to piss off God. God's like, no, declare that shit. And we'll just win every time. You need to be saying that with yourself. You need to be telling your old self, hold my beer, and the new you goes and gets it done. Tell him, finish it. I'm not coming back for it. You and I are done. I can't stand your bullshit anymore. Be gone. Break agreement with the old you. Get into the Sabbath, like Anders was just talking about.
And this is our next quote, which is from Ephesians 4:22-23, that you put off concerning the former conversation, old man, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. So, get rid of the old man, that former conversation, that old belief about who you are and what's important, and just be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
And Neville talks about that constantly. You've got to break free from the old man. The old man is going to try his hardest to come back and all that stuff, but break
all his old habits.
Yeah. Neville,
exactly.
So many of you guys tell me you prefer Neville and you just can't get into the Bible stuff with him, though. But I'm sorry, guys. Everything he's talking about is just him rewording a Bible passage. And a lot of time he tells you. It's why a lot of you guys have issues with some of the books, right? A lot of you guys, the 5 lessons, look, I struggled through that thing. I was like, good Lord, how much is he going to talk about the name of God? All this to just, say this one little simple thing. And he goes into such detail, but it's necessary. It's necessary to understand how much just the name of God is saying who God is with just one word. It explains so much. And you've got to have these fundamentals. You have to have these skills. And you have to do the drills. That's what the techniques are. You want to be good at a sport, you got to do your drills. You got to go to practice. Right? I get it. Some of us are blessed. Allen Iverson used to talk about that. Bro, I already know how to play the game. We're talking about practice, dude. I scored 70 points last game. We're talking about me missing practice. Why aren't we talking about the game? But Iverson was ready. He could step in at any moment and just play. A lot of you guys are trying to convince yourself you can, and you're not even believing it. Then you go to play and you're like, man, I'm bad. Iverson never said he was bad. He said he was a bad motherfucker. So you need to start telling yourself that. I always tell my clients, go to Amazon and you can get a wallet that says bad motherfucker on it. Buy it. And every time you forget who you are, you make like Shaft. There was this movie called Shaft in the 70s. My best friend from back home, we used to love these kinds of movies. And in the movie, Shaft would be walking in this bar and the bouncer would be like, hey, hold up, man. You can't come in here, brother. And he'd be like, this other guy would be in the bar and be like, oh, shit. And he'd be like, what? He's like, man, you don't know who you're talking to. And he's like, that's John Shaft. And he's like, Shaft, show him your wallet. Because the guy would be like, who are you? He's like, show him your wallet, Shaft. And Shaft would throw his wallet down and the guy would turn his head and be like, bad mother. And then somebody would just slap the shit out of me and go, shut your mouth. Right? Shaft let you know he was a bad motherfucker and nobody fucked with him. You got to be Shaft. You got to tell yourself every day, I'm a bad motherfucker. Bad motherfucker. I always win. Like that song, all I do is win. You should be listening to shit like that. You want to put shit in your brain? I mean, I'm not the biggest DJ Khaled fan, but I like his message, right? He's got, so all I do is win.
That is a great
God
song.
did. This motherfucker drove everybody crazy. He kept going, God did, right? He's winning a Grammy. He's like, you didn't think I could do it. God did. You didn't think we could do that. God did. He pissed his wife off. I saw a great video, really funny, where his wife's working out and he's like, come on, baby, just 2 more. You can do it. And finally she goes, shut up, you fat fuck. Get over here and do it yourself. Trying to motivate me. You can't even do 2 of these, right? But he's like, I could if I wanted to. Just ask God. Like he doesn't stop with it. He's gonna tell you how fucking great he is all the time. You're not gonna convince him otherwise. Right? He bought into it. Buy into it like these crazy conspiracy theorists. Buy into it like the crazy religious people. Buy into it. Get fucking crazy. There is great freedom in being crazy. There's a great actor, Gary Busey. He is batshit crazy. But every once in a while, he says something so profound that you're just like, he's a fucking genius. And then he'll go off and talk about the weirdest shit, you know? But he always has, but there's a freedom in being crazy. You can say whatever you want because everybody's just like, oh, that's just Crazy Joe. But Crazy Joe drops some truth because he sees things from a crazy perspective that the people who are playing it safe and afraid to be crazy can't. Get crazy. Like Michael Keaton and Batman. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Go nuts. Get crazy. Believe. Take that giant leap of faith like Indiana Jones. Right? Take the leap of faith like Miles and Spider-Man. Destroy the old you like Superman. Guys,
Absolutely.
all of these things are just stories out there that are metaphors for that person's life. Those people are like, let me write about my life, but let me make it interesting. Because like if I just tell you, hey, I believed in myself, it's going to be a boring fucking movie. But if I put Spider-Man in it and he's fighting for the world and the multiverse and this bad guy and that bad guy, and not only that, he's got to fix his life, but he still gets up when he gets punched, and but he doesn't believe in himself. It's like, whoa, drama. We all love drama. But go have the real story, right? I think of that movie, The Vow. Every woman thinks, oh my God, my wife's like, that movie's so romantic. Would you do that if I lost my memory, fight to get me back and make me fall in love with you all over again? Da, da, da. And then we found out the truth about that movie. It wasn't really like that. There was no ex-fiance that he was having to battle with and all that. It was just like she forgot who he was and he just kept bugging her. He just kept showing up for her and she's like, you know what? You're not as cute, as maybe I thought you were before because you're a lot older. And you find out they're not the most attractive. They're definitely not Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams. They are like as far from that as you can get. And, so she's like, well, he's showing up and nobody else. Like, you kind of almost feel like she's like, well, shit, like, better this than nothing, But that's really all that happened was he's just like, oh, I don't give up. It's my wife. It's really that simple. It's really that boring. But it's what love is. Like Chris Rock said it best. When you're married, you're a little bored. When you're single, you're fucking crazy. So, Andrews, do you have any more scripture you want to share?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So the prophet Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please. And it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. And so that's Isaiah declaring the word of the Lord. And so that's what God says. And so
guys, it's just like Neville tells you too. Yeah. Speak it until you believe it, and then it will show up telling you it's true. That's pre-paving. That's what Wayne Dwyer was talking about. Right? That's what Jesus is talking about when he says, when you pray, don't ask, say thank you, and walk knowing it's done. That's what he's talking about. Say it, declare it, know it's true, and just keep faith in it. And you're going to keep walking towards the place where it's true. Actually, it's going to start walking towards you. The great thing about God is he does more than meet you halfway. He just needs you to believe a little bit. He'll come to you, though. All he wants to see is those first steps. Just like that song, the first step pleases the Father.
Yeah, reach out to him. That's all.
Yeah, if you reach out to God, he will not fail you. Neville's telling you that too. So for all you people that are going to give us any crap about like, well, you got too Bible heavy. No, sorry, man. Neville is literally rewording scripture.
These are all pretty much quotes which Neville has referenced.
Yeah. And he's not telling you that to be a Bible thumper. He's telling you because, again, the Bible is a literal how-to book.
It's to fire your imagination.
Yeah, it's God promising you over and over again, man, we're good. Don't believe me? Hold my beer. Don't believe me? Ask David. Ask Abraham. Ask Jesus. Ask all these people. But he also lets you know, even some of the chosen people are still not believers. Jesus had 12 of them following him everywhere. We believe, we believe, we believe. And then he dies, and they're like, we're as good as dead. He told you you were good. He told you. It was, the funny thing is, Mary Magdalene, from my understanding now, is one of the most misrepresented people in religion. I grew up thinking this woman was an actual prostitute, only to find out later she wasn't. And that what she wanted to do at the time was very controversial, which was not get married, have kids. She wanted to follow Jesus. When Jesus is crucified and the apostles start looking around going, where is the sulfur raining down on the wicked? Where is the fire and the demons reaching up and pulling them down to hell? Where is the light in the Garden of Eden? And she's like, whoa, where'd you get all that shit from? He told you the kingdom of heaven is within. You have it now here. Why are you afraid? He told you he's coming back. You know? I think that's
well, I think what's
a big deal too, because if you look back, one of the things that proves that Jesus was real, when I watched the movie The Case for Christ, was in Jesus's time, women's whatever they said could not be documented.
Women's testimony was not considered as valid.
Fact. It wasn't valid.
As a man's.
It is the only time in history, and not ever again for a very long time after that, because at first it was only the women who were taking care of these graves that first saw Jesus. They were like, this man, the rock was gone, he walked out of that cave. And they took
Well, I think it's interesting too, and maybe it's because, partly because the women maybe didn't face physical punishment. I don't know. But I think the big lesson probably is it was the women who went to Jesus's grave first, right? And then she came to them first, and they believed on it, and they went and told everybody. And what were the disciples doing? Were they? I think most of them were hiding out. Hiding out because they were scared and they didn't want to get killed too.
Peter denies Jesus 3 times. Didn't you know that guy? No, I didn't know him. Weren't you one of his followers? No, I didn't know him.
Yeah, and then he starts to go fishing again. He goes back to being a fisherman again. And so, it's Jesus comes
they go back to their old ways.
Yeah, he doesn't come back to all the disciples who've been having like a nonstop prayer meeting since his death. It's not what he comes back to.
Not like all them reflecting on the fact that like the kingdom of heaven is here now. We have it. We're saved. Everything's good. We have a get out of jail free card for life. Instead, they're thinking more persecution, more danger.
And there was a lot of persecution, but Jesus came back and explained to them exactly what was in the scripture, and that everything which happened to him he fulfilled it.
And I mean,
once and for all.
God talks about it, but again, I choose to say that's just a story, so it doesn't apply to me. But when you speak up for God, a lot of times people will say, prepare to be, assaulted. Like people are going to like come after you because you're speaking the truth and they don't want that truth out there.
Yeah.
That's why I really don't care what people say about stuff or religion or God or me or anything. It's, like Kanye West said, not that he's the greatest example right now, but when he made Jesus Walks, he said,
great song.
This song might take away from my spins, but in the end, I know it takes away from my sins. And he's saying, I don't give a shit if you don't want. But his whole career is him proving that he is the opposite of what a popular rapper is, and he becomes bigger than them, right? If you watch his documentary, before he went through all this crap, he is literally be told, dude, you wear a pink polo, you wear a backpack, you've never been to jail, you kind of grew up middle class. I'm going to promote this guy who got shot 7 times, this guy who's been in and out of jail his whole life, this guy. But meanwhile, Kanye, your beats are the best around. You made Jay-Z go to another level, but yeah, man, we can't listen to your songs. But I'll take all your beats. And they only signed him to keep him making beats because Jay-Z's biggest album was the one Kanye produced. Yep. Meanwhile, this dude is in the office playing Jesus Walks, All Falls Down, Through the Wire, some of his biggest songs, some of the most iconic songs in rap music to people. And they're like, yo, Kanye, turn that down, man. I'm on the phone, bro. Don't you see him on the phone? Don't be those people in that office. Don't miss the fucking hit in front of you. That platinum song, that platinum idea in front of you. You know? He definitely has his issues. I'm definitely not for all the anti-Semitic stuff. But this dude calls it, right? He said, I could be anti-Semitic and Adidas can't lose me. Adidas just announced they worked out a deal with him. Donald Trump, he tells you shit like I could shoot somebody in the middle of the street and they'll still vote for me. And they do. What happened when he lost, though? He was telling everybody, I'm fucked. I'm going to get kicked out. And then we knew he really believed it because he was like, oh, let me tell you, it's all rigged. It's all this. It's all that. And whatever. And the people that liked him believed it. And that to them is like, you can't change their mind. And the other people are like, you can't change their mind.
Yeah.
They bought into their story and stuck to it. You have to buy into your story and stick to it. And when things like that go on too, you can just be like, none of that shit has anything to do with me. Who cares about politics? Who cares about that? Because I have the ability to always take care of myself. Fuck a recession. As a matter of fact, I made more money during COVID than I did before COVID. And now I just believe I make a lot of money, so I do. But I was thinking, well, a lot of people are going to need help through this time. A lot of people are going to have a bunch of great ideas and want to get them out too. When stuff picks back up, they're going to need a bunch of shows. Have a bag full of them, you know? And sure enough, all that stuff worked out. Because I was just like, I don't see an obstacle. I see an opportunity. That's the difference between a winner and a loser. The winner sees the opportunity. The loser only sees obstacles. You can come up with a million reasons why some shit won't work. All you need, though, is one way that it does. And the problem is solved. That's the easier way to go. Yet you guys all want to sit there and keep coming up with more and more excuses. Stop.
Well, let's come up with, we got 2 more verses, then if you want to share that story, and then we should wrap up. Sure. So these two go together. One is by Amos, it's from Amos 3:3. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? And then the other one is, Jesus says in Matthew 18:19, again, I say to you that if 2 of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. So this is where self-talk comes in, right?
Yeah, because I think the second person in agreement is you.
Yep. Yeah.
You and God.
Yep. If you're having a mental conversation with yourself, it's going to be pretty dangerous if you choose the wrong one.
And a lot of times God is trying to tell you the right one, and you want to keep arguing the wrong one. I had a lot of clients waste tons of time telling me why it can't work. And then when they just stopped doing that and just were like, fuck it, I'll go for it, they'd be like, man, that worked. So let's talk about, I'll call him Oz because he's Australian and I don't want to give his real name. He'll be a guest, and if he decides to give you his name, great, but I don't want to put him on the spot. But one of my first clients from Australia, I've had quite a few now since, just such a great outlook on life, but he had been cheated on and left for the other man. And so his self-esteem took a big hit. But even before that, he would admit to you that he kind of didn't think he was worthy and deserving, and that something like that was going to happen. He was worried about cheating, all that stuff. And he'll tell you, I totally created it. But one of the big turnarounds for him was, and he wrote a success story about this, it was one of his first ones. He tells you about an older lady in his office. And he's like, from her appearance, you would assume she is a grandmother type, super nice old lady. But man, did this woman hate me. The stuff that would come out of her mouth about me was disgusting. She had no problem telling me how disgusting I was too. And he said to me, thank God today was her last day before her vacation. She's going on vacation for like, I think a week or 2 weeks, he said. And I was like, Oz, this is perfect. For the next 2 weeks, only see her as that lovable grandmother that you say she physically embodies, but you're saying emotionally and mentally she doesn't. Make the whole picture she's that. And he did. He did not let one bad thought come in. Even if he did, he flipped it for sure right away and didn't let it run wild. He caught it right away and didn't let it run wild. If you're gonna catch this, like when I did it too, I would be like, oh, she doesn't. And instead of saying she doesn't love me, I'd be like, she does love me more than ever. I do have more money than ever. I am the best father. Instead of I'm not a good father. I am the best father. I am wealthy. You got to stop it. So he did this while she was gone. And he said to me, I don't know, whatever happens with her when she comes back, like I kind of definitely shifted with her. Like I kind of feel like maybe I'm rough on her too. And I don't know, I'll like, kind of kill her with kind, like he was just ready to be really nice to her. And he wasn't expecting her to be a bitch. He'll describe it to you guys much better than I can because I don't remember all the details of it. But wouldn't you know it, when she came back, she was loving. When he left that job for a better job, she was sad he was leaving. She looked at him as, guess what? A grandson who she loved more than ever. All from 1 week of not allowing any bullshit story about this lady, even though the rest of us would have been like, but bro, that's the truth. You're in denial. This woman hates you, man. You're not coming back from that. I don't know what you did, but it's not going to change. You got to just accept it. He said, nope, I don't accept it. He broke agreement with it. He went into the Sabbath, and she showed up loving and kind and never went back to her old ways. And that
That's
reminds
awesome.
me too of, because I like to throw in my movie references at the end, Star Wars. When you watch Revenge of the Sith, we all kind of like that one because it's where Anakin goes dark and, he really goes rogue. But Yoda says something to him when he comes to him to discuss fear and like, hey, Yoda, like, why don't you want me to learn the dark side? Because I'm kind of hearing maybe it could save something and it's like the most important thing. And why wouldn't we want to do that? Why wouldn't we just use that power for good and kind of wrangle it in? And Yoda's like, no. And he tells them. And throughout all the movies, the master is always telling the Padawan, mind your thoughts. They will betray you. Watch your fear. It will lie to you and try to deceive you. And he says, when you give into it, it leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to destruction. And that's what happens. Before you know it, you become Darth Vader. But guys, the whole point of those 3 first movies was to show you that even the most evil man in the galaxy could be defeated and the other guy, his pupil, could be turned. Right? They say in the earlier movies, when you find out later, Anakin is supposed to bring balance to the Force. Well, what do you think happens in Return of the Jedi? He brings the balance back. They destroy the Emperor and he brings the good back into power. Because the truth is, the Emperor was the Empire. They were the big army they were trying to defeat. And in the end, Anakin becoming Anakin again and letting go of Darth Vader brings peace. And that's what you guys have to do. Even those movies about Luke Skywalker, right? He's the reluctant hero. Then all this bad stuff happens to him. And in the third movie, he's kind of going, maybe there is something to this dark side too, just like his dad. But he also notices, like, man, I am kind of becoming part machine, just like my dad. I don't want to do that. He shows up in all black, kills everybody in that first scene. Then goes back and sees Yoda and realizes, no, this is not the way. Yes, I'm powerful. Yeah, I can wreck some shop. I can slap some motherfuckers. But that's not who I want to be. That's not what's going to save my dad. What's going to save my dad is me being the light. A lot of you guys, you got to start being the light. You want change in your life? Become that first. You want forgiveness? Give forgiveness first. Forgive yourself, forgive them, forgive everybody. The truth is, they end up hanging themselves anyway. The people that really wronged me, in the end, man, they got what they deserved. I had nothing to do with it. It's just they're on that path, so it's going to happen. So let them. But when you forgive, it's not even for them, it's for you. Right? When you change your story,
absolutely,
it's for you. You got to remember that. You got to stay away from the fear, because it does lead to anger and hatred and all that. Think about it. When you guys do this for an SP and they don't show up, you get angry. Where the fuck is she? Where the fuck is he? I'm doing all this work over here. It feels like a waste of time. Don't believe me? Get on the Neville Goddard sub. They're always bitching about that over there. I'm wasting my time. I give up. I this. But they're not really giving up. They want you to be their source and pat them on the back and be like, keep going, keep trying. That's why I tell them on my sub, okay, quit. Not going to affect me either way. I love all you guys, but if you don't get your SP, it doesn't affect me. If you don't care, why should I? If you don't want to do the work and you don't want to read, why the hell should I explain the books to you in detail where it's just going to give you more and more questions? And it's funny, you have no problem believing you're worthy and deserving of that attention. And you guys hold me to this standard you won't even hold yourself to. But when it comes to your SP, you're like, oh, no, I don't deserve that. Me, I'm just some stranger. You're like, this motherfucker knows how to do it. He better tell me. I deserve it. One person literally said that to me when they told me they couldn't afford me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't have any room to take anybody, let alone somebody for free too. You know? And plus, you're not ready. And I knew he wasn't ready. And his response was perfect. Well, I don't give a shit what you say. You should help me, and I deserve it. And if you won't, fuck you, and blah, blah. And he said horrible things, how he's going to slit my daughter's throat, all kinds of crazy shit.
Wow, that's crazy.
What this guy also won't tell you is he beat the shit out of a 3-year-old kid until they almost died. He put his SP in the hospital. When I found out, I was like, I'm not helping you. But I also wondered why this guy couldn't forgive himself. And he puts himself through hell. But he's always blaming me. I'm a gatekeeper. I'm, what does he say? What is it? Not hot boxing. That's when you fart in a car. Gaslighting him. That I get off on being God and knowing how to do it and picking and choosing who I help. It's not what's going on. Some of you guys need to get real and say, I'm not ready. My shit isn't together. The last thing I need to be doing is worrying about an SP. If you don't have money to pay a coach or go on vacation or do any of the things you want, you should not be hiring a coach. You should not be using your last bit of money to hire me. And I tell people that. I ask them, are you financially stable? Yes or no? And a lot of you guys tried to bullshit me, right? And then I find out, well, I can't afford that. Well, then you're not financially stable. That's not a lot of money. I've seen some of you guys say it. Hey, man, that's your story. You're in lack. That's not a lot of money to me because that's their story. But all that aside, you know, you guys have to stop arguing with yourself in your head. You got to stop giving into the fear. You got to stop the old stories. All this shit has to stop. And that's what a mental diet is. It is stopping all that shit and just only thinking about what you want and then just saying, declaring, not commanding out of fear, but declaring like everybody listens because I threw down my wallet and now you all know I'm a bad motherfucker, that it's done. And then watch how when you stay in that state long enough, you're in the Sabbath. And nobody's talking you out of the Sabbath. The thing that pisses people off the most about me is I don't need them for anything. They need my help, so they'll try to manipulate, throw sob stories, emojis, all this stupid shit. And I'm like, sorry, I have my rules. I don't break them. And I also don't have to take people that I don't want to. Because I'll be honest, guys, a client who's not ready and is going to be difficult is not worth any amount of money. But I also put myself in a position where I have so much money, it doesn't matter if anyone pays me or not. I can just keep manifesting money. So I never have to sell my soul and do things I don't want to do. And because of that, I feel really good about myself. Because of that, I believe in myself. Because of that, I'll say, sorry, I don't care how much money you offer me. I'm not going to manifest your person back for you. Sorry, I'm not going to help you steal somebody's husband or wife. I wouldn't want that done to me. Oh, you'll pay me triple, quadruple my rate? You'll give me $20,000? Sorry, that money is not worth it to me. I won't be able to feel good about myself if I help you do that. And the truth is, you're not going to feel good about yourself if you do that. Don't do that. Let me show you how you can have your own love story. Let me show you what happens when you get rid of the fear, all the possibilities that show up. Let me show you what happens when you have a good mental diet and you watch the stories that you tell and you only tell what you want and nothing else. And you say that shit like it is the truth. Okay? That's how you have to be. Like all these people with the aliens. I don't care what you say. I saw what I saw. Exactly. I bet you money if or when they show up, that's the first motherfucker whose door they're going to knock on. Right? He believed. Whatever. But again, you have to just jump. You have to buy into it. That's why all this stuff that we've been talking about builds on the next one, right? You have to believe. If you believe, then you're able to test it more because you can only get your test to work if you believe a little bit. And then you build your belief over and over again through testing it. Then when you test it and you're like, wow, I'm giving all this stuff to myself, you're learning how to become your own source. So now you believe, now you tested it, your belief is getting stronger. Now you're showing yourself, I can give myself anything. I don't need anybody for that stuff. God always comes through for me. I'm not a loser. I'm not a failure. I'm not anything. I'm a winner. God loves me more than anything. He loves turning a shithead into a success. And then all you got to do is keep a tight mental diet and just say no to anything that will fuck that up. Say no. I'm sure at some point you've all had something in your life that you just love more than anything. And anybody tries to touch it, get near it, no. Can I ride your BMX bike? No. My mom and dad gave it. I waited months for this thing. No. Can I drive your Porsche? No. That shit is expensive. Can we have a party at your house? No. It's my dream home. That's how you have to be with this dream. And then you have to tell yourself, it's not a dream. It's real. It's here now. The only thing that's keeping it from showing up this second is your lack of belief. Promise you guys, when you get good at this shit and you really just believe and you like, I said my thing for 3 minutes. I think I went overboard. I don't need to say affirmations much longer than that. It's already done. And you go just live your life. You'll be like, oh man, not only did it come, but it came, it waited for me, and it was there when I got back home, sealed up in a locker, protected, everything. It couldn't have worked out better. And I got to just go enjoy my day. And I feel great. And I got to spend time with somebody else. All that stuff, it'll just work out in ways you never expected. God not only comes through for you, but he comes through for you in a way like you can't even imagine. And he's really just doing it to be like, see what I tell you. Hold my beer. I'll be right back. I always come back. I got you. But then you guys go and worry about something else. He's like, bro, how many times do I have to fucking do it? But instead of giving you a hard time, he goes, okay, let's go do it again. But what happens is you're not appreciating things, so they start to go away. And then you want to blame God. Meanwhile, God's like, here, it's in my hands. And he puts it right in front of your face, and you close your eyes and turn your head and go, where? I can't see it. And he moves to you again. Here, open your eyes. I can't open my eyes. The sun's too bright. Here, over here now. You're in the shade. I can't do it. Where is it? Right under your nose, man. But he's still way more patient than I am. Right under your nose. It's always going to be here. Take your time. Open your eyes when you're ready. Because God knows you're getting there whether you want to or not. The truth is, all these people are like, I don't believe in God. The truth is, when they die, they're going to know God's real. He doesn't worry about that shit. You shouldn't worry about that stuff. You should just be saying, I'm worthy, I'm deserving, I was created, and it's really hard for people to be born, to even be made. Anybody that's ever tried to get pregnant knows. It's like a 33% chance you'll get pregnant even when you're ready to get pregnant. Yet somehow we're all here. Somehow we're all different, unique. The amount of creativity needed for that is incomprehensible. So many different personalities. Yet also, we were designed to all be one with one another, to take those differences in each other and learn from them and make that part of us and become one with them. My wife and I are very different, but that's what's great. I was the loudmouth confrontational. She was the like, oh no, come on, let's be sane about this, and you rub off on each other. I was the brave one who would go for things, and she's like, you know what? I need to go for things too. Andrew's great at motivating, but until recently, well, not recently, you've been doing it for quite a while now, but once he started really believing in himself and taking his own advice, I mean, again, the proof is in the pudding. You know you're doing the work because the results happen. So if they're not happening, it's like, it's not what am I doing wrong? Just be like, I got to do more. All you guys are like, should I do more? Should I do more? If you're asking, should I do more? Then yes, you should do more. Should I quit? No, but if you want to, quit. You're just going to drive yourself insane, though, once you've opened this box. Until you realize everything's your fault, you're to blame for everything, you're also the person who could fix it all instantly, you're going to keep arguing with yourself. Stop arguing with yourself. Stop arguing with God. Hold his beer and let him do his work. Even Neville tells you that in Prayer in the Art of Believing. He tells you God is literally inside of you. He doesn't do that whole like God is your wonderful human imagination. He talks about a real God inside of you that you are one with. And to trust that God, that's where the belief comes from, is trusting in God that he's going to come through for you. Because you are him and he is you. Because God has been man and he knows the plight of man. And he's trying to get you to be God and understand how wonderful it is to be God and how you can be in heaven just like he is. How a simple thought can manifest something beautiful instantly. And you know this so much that you would never even think to manifest anything bad. But you ask why God creates bad things? Maybe we create it. Maybe it's also so that we understand when we are happy because we've experienced being sad. Who knows? But you have a choice with everything to either stay sad or fix it. And those moments you think are your darkest and you'll never escape from, I'm sorry, but they are the most beautiful moment. And that's when the light is actually breaking through. He's saying, look, it looks really bad right now, right? Watch this. Hold my beer. And God kicks that fucking darkness out of there and a bright light shines. And instead of like being like, there it is, you guys go, oh, it's too bright. Oh, I'm scared to walk into the light. Get some balls. Jump. Trust. Believe. That's why your relationship didn't work out. You stopped believing in the person. You stopped trusting them. You stopped believing in that love that you claim was so wonderful. It was so fucking wonderful. Why'd you stop believing in it? Why'd you think this guy was going to be the way the other guy was? You can trace back to when you got hurt. The first person that did it, be it your dad, that first boyfriend, whatever. Fuck them all. Doesn't mean that guy's that way. In fact, if you say he's not that way, he's not. You are literally writing your own story. You are constantly creating. It never stops. So watch every fucking story you tell. And the more you tell it, the faster it shows up because you believe it. Because again, repetition, practice. You guys don't realize all the bad shit that happened to you was the manifestation. You were living in the end of the wish fulfilled, but for the thing that you do not desire. But make no mistake, that was a manifestation. You were living in the end of what you didn't want, and you got it. So congrats, you know how to live in the end. You know how to do this. You just only think you know how to do it for the bad shit, or you don't even think you know how to do it for the bad shit, but you are. You're a master of it. I was a master of it. My life was full of drama. And I kind of even wanted it because I was like, that'll make me a better artist, a better actor. The pain, the fix. It's not worth it, man. All you have to do is tell yourself you're great at something and then practice it and you will be great at it. Because the practice helps you build your belief in yourself too. Because you'd be like, well, I practiced the hell out of this. And I remember when I first started, I sucked. And now I can do this pretty easily. I'm getting pretty good at it. And you start to believe it. And then you start to believe in yourself. And it all builds, just like these 4 steps. You have to have some belief. You have to test it and keep building the belief. You have to show yourself you can do it all yourself. And then you just keep it together by not letting anything else in. And before you know it, you believe. Then you go to say, my person loves me more than ever now. And you're like, you're damn right. Somebody finally took out their fucking wallet. They know now. Everybody knows. Your SP knows. Your friends know. Your family knows. And you're going to know, birds before land. All your exes will start calling you back. All your friends will say things like, man, there's something different about you. You've changed. I really like this new version of you. Anders, remember? You would say stuff like that all the time. I would ask you, do you think I've changed? And you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, wow, he's not going to lie about that, so I must be changing. My dad, he was the biggest one. Because I know you're a loving person. Even when we're fucking up, you'll still be nice about it. You're like, well, I think you could do this a little better and stuff. My dad will be like, you're fucking up. You're a fuck up. I'm embarrassed. I can't talk to anybody about you. Like, if they ask me how you're doing, I'm just like, oh, great. That's it.
Right.
Like, get your shit together, man. What made me, I remember in college, I hurt my knee and I ended up putting on almost 100 pounds. And I got depressed because I wasn't playing football and I didn't have that aggression outlet, all that. And I was really angry, and I was eating McDonald's like every day. And I got really fat. And my dad just came home one night and he was like, buddy, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, look at you, man. And he wasn't trying to be mean. He was trying to, like, my dad kind of thinks if he doesn't smack you in the face with it, like physically, he's got to smack you in the face with it verbally. He doesn't do that anymore, but he'd be like, look at how fucking disgusting you look. You were a good looking dude. You used to get the cream of the crop. Like you were good. He's like, you've lost your swagger, your confidence. He didn't say swagger, but your confidence, that thing that made you you. This is sad. I can't look at this. This isn't my kid. I didn't raise you to be like this. And he's like, it's disgusting, man. You're fat. You are fat as shit. And you don't even care. How many times did you go to McDonald's today? How many 2 for 2s did you eat? He was mean about it. But you know what happened the next day? I was like, you motherfucker. That's it. I've been thinking the same thing he's thinking, and I'm not fucking telling myself that story anymore. And I got muscle memory and everything else, and my fat ass is going in that gym. And I didn't. I remember the first day, man, it sucked. I could not run 5 miles without having to get off the treadmill. And I purposely went to a gym because I was young enough at the time, and my dad was in the military, where it was all Marines working out. Fuck Navy, Air Force, all that. Marines are hardcore. These guys were in shape. Even the guys out of shape for Marines were in really good shape for regular people. And They made fun of me. And I purposely every day wore like 4 layers of clothes. It was like underwear, long johns, track pants, pants over that, sweatshirts, hoodie, everything. And I never took them off until I got down to my fighting weight, like even leaner than I was. And they noticed, some of them noticed, they're like, oh yeah, they would walk by and be like, thumbs up, because they noticed I was running way past the 5 minutes. Oh shit, he's doing an hour. He's running uphill. And then I went in there one day, and that guy who made fun of me that first day, I remember I took off all that shit and let him see just me in like some shorts and a t-shirt. And he was like, ooh. And I was like, you get on that fucking treadmill now. And I was like, you made fun of me when I couldn't run 5 minutes. Let's see if you can beat me now. When we raced, I was so fast, so good at the treadmill. I literally, during part of it, ran backwards. And I was like, will you do me a favor? Will you practice when I'm not here? Will you get better at this? Because this is embarrassing. The fat kid is beating you running backwards, uphill. Like I would do what he was doing. I was like, well, that's just too easy. Let's make it challenging. And I would hit it on mine and be like, are you going to follow me or are you going to just stay where you're at? And people were laughing at him. And after that, I remember everybody in the gym was like, yeah, man, he's real. It's the same thing with football. You get hazed. You either show you're tough or you get picked on. Comes a time in life, you got to just be a fighter. When you do, You will be victorious. So it's time, guys. And those of you saying you're sick of it, but then you keep doing it, I hate to break it to you, but you're not sick of it. You're not done with it. Until you decide no more. It's why you can't make somebody go to rehab. It's why when you try to, they're like, one more fix. I can get high just one more time. Right? Think about like when you diet. Whenever I would have to diet for stuff, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to have this one final day and say goodbye to junk food and soda and da-da-da. And then the next day I'd be like, well, I feel like shit for eating so bad. I kind of have to like, hair of the dog, eat some more of it. And I'll just, instead of like giving it up cold turkey, I'll wean off of it. And then I never did any of that. And then instead I got fatter or whatever, more out of shape. And I'd be like, ugh, I'm a piece of shit. I'll never escape it. Then something happens and you're like, that's it. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. And you just get up and fight. And you don't care how you look, how embarrassing it is, whatever. You're like, who cares? I will get there. And you just go one foot after the other. And before you know it, you're done. Like we said, God doesn't meet you halfway. He comes to you and he yanks your ass to the finish line. The first step pleases the Father. When the blessings go, or when the praise goes up, the blessings will rain down. Yeah, when it rains, it pours. But it's like that for the good stuff too.
Amen.
And that's, guys, what a mental diet is.
Well, thank you guys for listening today. This is great.
So thank you guys again. Anders, again, thank you for doing this. Guys, Anders is amazing. He's writing all the descriptions and the YouTubes. He's uploading everything. He's taking care of all of this stuff. So please, in the comments, drop him a thank you. Tell him how much you appreciate it. Again, I'm just very blessed, to have a friend like him. And
Me too.
Yeah, I can tell you that we really love you guys. We're really trying to get you to fight for yourself. But at the same time, guys, we're not going to get dragged down with you either. You got to get up and fight. No one's coming. Shit, we're kind of coming. God is willing to come get you. But you can't wait for somebody else to save you. You got to take the first step. Then people take you seriously too, and they will reach out and help you. They'll get you there. But they're smart enough. People who have their shit together know I can't get dragged down with this person too. So stop being that person. Fuck showing your ex, your friends, your family. Show you. Show God. You don't even have to show God. He knows who you are. All right?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is God already came down for you. He already stepped out for you. But reach out to him though, because that's when you'll really see him come through because he's a gentleman. So he's waiting for you to reach out. He's not going to force himself on you.
It's weird. I feel like somehow people are already hearing this, even though we're just recording it. Because right now, after we said all that, somebody just messaged me like, "I'm tired of this. I really just want it to stop.
Yep.
Please help."
Yep.
And I do.
It sounds like a good topic.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that more. We're going to have some of the actual people that I coached and went through this stuff. And again, I coached them, but when they say thank you, notice what I always say: don't thank me, thank you. You did the work.
Yeah, you believed.
Yeah, you believed. You trusted. You jumped.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
You thought it was possible.
Yeah. So as always, all the best. We're intending that you get everything you need to solve your problems from these podcasts, from these lessons. We're going to keep doing them. We got plenty more subjects. We'll do ones on money, on love, on everything, But these first 4 were some of the first things that I teach everybody that I coach. We do this stuff first. We get them right first. And then they'll tell you, getting my SP, getting that job, getting that money was as easy as getting a free cup of coffee. It was as easy as climbing a ladder. The difference between them and you too is you think climbing a ladder and getting a free cup of coffee is hard. They don't think that anymore. And that led to them thinking getting an SP was easy. Again, practice, 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 repetition, 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 discipline, discipline, persistence, persistence. The man who is persistent will win out over everyone else. You could be better educated than me. You could be, in better shape than me, everything. I will win because I'll persist more than you. All right? So be that type of person. So again, guys, we love you. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Be encouraged. We love you guys. And remember that God loves you too. Till then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.